So hi, my name is Jonathan Schick, and I'm the Digitalization and Artificial Intelligence Advisor for EFAA. EFAA, or the European Federation of Accountants and Auditors for SMEs, was founded in 1994 and is an umbrella organization for national accountants and auditors organizations whose individual members provide professional services primarily to SMEs within the European Union and Europe as a whole. EFAA for SMEs has 15 members throughout Europe, representing over 400,000 accountants, auditors, and tax advisors. My own work at EFAA consists of studying the impacts that digitalization, AI, and new technologies in general have on the industry, and provide practitioners with the right advice on not just how to tackle these challenges, but also how to leverage its advantages. So I'd like to welcome you all to today's episode of our podcast, where we dive into the real-world experiences of professionals navigating the ever-evolving landscape of digital finance. In this episode, we turn our focus to a topic that's transforming how businesses manage their financial operations, namely e-invoicing. As governments across Europe and beyond push for greater transparency, efficiency, and automation in financial reporting, e-invoicing has moved from a technical ambition to a kind of strategic necessity for many organizations. To bring this topic to life, we're joined by two leading voices in the accounting and finance world. In this episode, Aleksandra Zaronina will be speaking with Eilis Quinlan, who has been at the forefront of implementing e-invoicing within her organization. Together, they'll explore not only the why behind the decision to embrace e-invoicing, but also the how, including key lessons from the trenches of planning, system integration, and change management. From initial business case development to overcoming technical and human challenges, and finally, to the tangible benefits and unexpected outcomes. This conversation should provide insights for any SME considering or beginning its own e-invoicing journey. A small overview of our speakers. So Aleksandra Zaronina is head of SME Professional Insights at ACCA. She develops research and advises on policy issues for ACCA related to SMEs and SMPs. Having previously worked for SMEs in pharmaceutical, transport, and hospitality sectors, Aleksandra has hands-on understanding of the needs and realities of the SME world. Aleksandra has a strong international record and understanding of emerging markets. And prior to joining ACCA, she dealt with various international organizations, including the UN and regional integration projects of the NY. Eilis Quinlan worked in the practice until starting her own firm in 1992. She's a chartered director, holds a certificate in computing from DCU, and also trained as a commercial mediator. Eilis sits on the National Council of ISME, is a member of the ACCA Global Forum for SMEs. Eilis's main expertise lies in all areas of cross-border tax planning and SME development. She sits as a non-executive director on some charity boards as well. So without further ado, I'm handing it over to you, Aleksandra. Thank you.
Thank you, Jonathan, and thanks for setting up the scene. Thanks for the introduction. And indeed, this is a very important topic of invoicing, and we're really delighted to have the opportunity to dive into that today with Eilis. We're really happy to have you. Really great that you could find time for this conversation today. So maybe let's start with you briefing, introducing yourself and your practice, and what was the size? What's the size of your practice, and when did you begin your invoicing journey?
We've a small practice on SMP in Naas, which is less than an hour from Dublin in Ireland. I have a team of 12 now, and we've just recently merged with another practice which is based in Dublin and Portlaoise, so altogether we'll have 20. It's exciting because we believe we have complementary skills. I've been a sole SMP for 30 years, so it's nice to be able to share the burden a little bit. But we deal mostly with SME clients, and as you said, Jonathan, I'm on the board of the Irish SME organisation, ISME. I've chaired it in the past, so I know firsthand the problems and the roadblocks that SMEs find, and I suppose firsthand I know what challenges they have and how I can hopefully help them overcome them. We have roughly over 500 SME clients on our books at the moment. Some of them are Irish based, some of them are EU based, some of them are UK based, some of them transact with each other. So it's an exciting landscape within which to learn what are their needs and how best to serve them. We started our journey towards e-invoicing in 2023, early 2023, we realized that our CRM package, which was a Relate product, had come to its finite life and the support wasn't going to be ongoing. So we were looking around for something new. Firstly, we knew we had to move from our current system. We also wanted something that would integrate across all our systems, because that's just the future. Up to then, we had been struggling with multiple spreadsheets and all the problems that that can bring, including errors, which isn't pleasant. So we did a lot of research into the programs that were available for the various stuff that we wanted to do, but also integration was hugely important for both accuracy and saving time. We viewed it both as necessary because our current system was end of life, but also as an exciting challenge, which would free up time right across the board within our practice. So the decision to jump was made. Then we had to decide what platforms we would use. And there was really only one that integrated with our internal bookkeeping system and our CRM. The main problem we've had was that the link between the two of them drops regularly. And I think within the last couple of years, there's Bright is the owner of the various bits of software, and they've been acquiring other bits of software and trying to integrate them, and sometimes that doesn't work. And I think we were a guinea pig for that. I think it's improving now, but other than that, it's been, we feel, very successful. Hugely time saving in terms of our office manager, and nearly automated. Once, for example, once a receipt is posted in our bookkeeping package, it'll automatically be posted and credited against that customer. So at any time I can go in, I can see what they owe us, what their work in progress is, all the transactions. We have the CRM part of that at the same time as the financial part of that. And I think that's what's been so useful in planning and in also cash flow. I think cash flow is the other big pro for this, because the invoices at the click of a button can go out on time. They're much more likely to be paid. And if there are queries on them, the queries will come back quickly rather than waiting a month after the work is done to send an invoice and another month for queries.
It really sounds like a massive improvement for your practice, Eilis, and thanks for sharing that. It feels like it came at the very right time for you, just when you were looking for the updated updates in your software. And if we need to look at the implementation, if that's possible, if you could walk us, I think that could be very interesting for other practitioners listening to us today. So if we need to walk through your implementation timeline from initial planning, you said it was, well, you started working on that in 2023, to your full deployment, would you be able to share a little bit of?
Sure. It was early 2023, and we spent 4 or 5 months researching available software first of all, and then when we'd made our decision, we had a lot of questions. We had internal training. The new eInvoicing software we were going to use, we had internal training on, but they also had a lot of support on their website, training modules, very good online support in terms of questions. And then we decided we would take the leap in September 2023 while keeping our current system live for 4 months. So within those 4 months, from August to December 2023, we tried to clean up the data that we were going to, well, we did clean up the data we were going to move, which was painstaking, and thank goodness I didn't have to do it myself. but it was really a matter of exporting and sifting through data, making sure the fields were correct, air codes or postcodes were in the correct fields, different counties were in the correct fields, even just the country that the clients were in for VAT purposes. We had to make sure that all of that was correct before it was imported to the new system. And we spent a couple of months debugging and tearing our hair out, to be honest, a little bit. But again, the software support was good, and I have a great team here, and we had weekly meetings with updates. Sometimes they were only 15 minutes, but it was really, the topic was, what are you finding that isn't working? Has anyone else found a way around that? Has anyone a better suggestion how to do it? What do you miss about the old system? That was quite revealing. And then we tried to narrow it down to, December, November, October, and what deadlines within those months. Where do we have to be by then? Where do we have to be by then? And we did a sort of a dry run on the 1st of December to see what we came up with, and we were reasonably happy.
Mm-hmm.
So the 2nd of January 2024, we went live with the new system, and we were actually pleasantly surprised. We were holding our breaths a bit, but it wasn't half as bad as we had thought. We kept checking each month to make sure, and we trusted our clients that if there were mistakes that they would contact us. But really, it was relatively painless, which we were all surprised and happy about. And by mid last year, 2024, we realized the amount of time saving once we trusted it, and once we got over the problems of the delinking between the CRM and the bookkeeping software. My office manager has, she's 2 to 3 extra days a week, she reckons, which is massive. It's also helped cash flow. It's also helped accuracies. It's also helped just with client interaction, because we have automated so much. They know, just pop back an email, pick up the phone. If you want to discuss something, just contact us. So from the interaction between clients and the team here, it's also been noticeably better.
Mm-hmm.
I hope it summarizes well, because thinking back, preparing for today, I was thinking it really wasn't that simple. But, I asked the others here and they said, it wasn't bad. It really wasn't. So it's the way forward. It's the way to go. It's the way to save time, become more efficient, and save money. I would highly recommend it with all its warts.
Thank you, Eilis, for sharing that in such a level of detail, because I'm sure that for the practitioners who are listening to us today, it's interesting to learn about all of that, because I think there are usually 2 big challenges. First, how do you choose the right solution, technological solution? And then the second one, how do you make sure that you have your team on board? And it does sound like, well, there were some technical hurdles that you were explaining, and quite in detail, but also it does sound like your team was fully on board, and that's such a massive factor in success of implementation of any new solution. So maybe if you could share your advice with other peer practitioners on those 2 very important aspects. What do you focus on when choosing the solution, the technical solution? And then second, how do you make sure that your team is on board and they're so supportive and cooperative in this effort?
Well, the easier one is the team, because we put it on the agenda for our weekly meetings, and we were all aware that the current system was nearing end of life. So everyone was just asked to make suggestions, look around, talk to their friends and colleagues in the industry, see what's available. So it came from them. We narrowed it down, we discussed it all the time. So it was never going to be just my decision, because I'm the boss. And so if I just throw something at them, the chances are even reactionary would be to say, oh, here she goes again on another blind alleyway. So the only way to do it would have been to get suggestions and to get the buy-in. And, you know, it was very useful for me because they're on the ground, they're using the software, they're dealing with the clients. So it was everyone's collaborative choice in the end. I think in a way we were lucky that we knew the end of life of the current system was coming, so it focused us on having to do this rather than put it on the long finger and wait till after this deadline and that deadline. In terms of choosing the software, again, it came down to integration, because we didn't want standalone systems, and we'd built a sort of an ad hoc model over the years, trying to improve things as another solution became available, but not with enough integration. So we were wasting time checking and then having a master spreadsheet, and then that had to be updated. And then, you know, anything that isn't automated is error prone, we felt, and that there had to be a better way to do it. And we went to a lot of seminars, and a lot of software companies came down and did demos, and we discussed what was on offer. But it really was down to, at the end, integration and price.
Mm-hmm. Those
I know there are different offerings in different countries, and this is why for my EU clients and UK clients, I had to make sure that it was going to work across the system, and it has so far.
Great, but I guess it's most probably one of the time-consuming steps, choosing the right software and making sure it's integratable to your current other solutions as well. And of course, for those practitioners who are working across the border, making sure that it's compatible with other, with what's usable in other countries as well.
Yeah, but I think a lot of the software is becoming pretty systematic. It's, you know, accounting is accounting. It's not rocket science. It's another system. So once it's correct, once what's put in is correct, it as long as it does the job. We wanted to go with a family of software that would be building integrations, and they would be adding on ability that they would be integrating, rather than us having to do it. We couldn't invent the wheel. We're not programmers, and we haven't time, as every practitioner will tell you. It's busy.
Exactly. And you sorry. Yeah.
No, I was just going to say as well that I went to a lot of forum and online fora in other countries as well as here, to listen to colleagues and follow their group chats about, you know, when you get down to it, this is what isn't working, this is what won't, you know, they won't fix it for us, this sort of thing. So you get a sense of the support that's available from the different companies. That's really, really important, because it can be an amazing system, but if there will always be glitches, and if the support isn't available, you're sitting there twiddling your thumbs. So it's massively important.
And again, you can learn a lot, I guess, from your peers. So there are so many, as you say, online communities, even where you can ask questions and where you can share your experience with your colleagues in your own country or in other countries. And I think that's where global communities, and such as ACCA community, we have so many groups online where you can just connect with your peers and read from that. And I think it's really, there is quite a switch in culture now because there is a lot of sharing in the community. It's rather, well, supporting than competing, of course. Well, and it's I think after COVID, we saw even more of that, of those online communities where you can connect with your peers and learn about those solutions.
Yeah. Also, there's plenty of work for us all. The thing is, some might prefer to specialize in one type and some might prefer to the other. So if I have a client who's looking for something that I don't specialize in, it's a help to them if I can recommend my colleague in another practice who can do a good job for them. And what goes around comes around, and it's good for everyone. So I think it's worth collaborating.
Exactly. And Eilis, you mentioned about several benefits, cost savings. Maybe you could, did you try to measure them? Could you, because I think always our listeners, our audiences like to hear, to learn about some figures. Did you try to measure that in terms of cost savings, time savings?
We actually went at it backwards, because what we did was over 2023 and early first couple of months of 2024, we had a code in our time recording system saying, what was it called? Software, or something like that, SW probably, so that if someone was on a 20-minute forum for something or other, they'd put it down to that and say what it was. So it was more, how much time were we spending on making this decision, and how many non-chargeable hours was spent on making the decision, rather than the other way round. I had no doubt that it would be cost saving. I didn't know how quickly the cost savings would show, but after Q1, it was definitely improving productivity right across the board, but certainly in the office management side of things, it was amazing.
That's really great to hear.
I can't quantify it, I'm afraid.
Yeah, but it's hard. You can see, if you look at different studies, we can see some of the figures. But again, I think it all very much depends on, on the practice, on the type of clients you have and the type of businesses you're working with. But certainly great to hear from you that there were so many, cost savings and time savings associated with that. Eilis, you also mentioned about, the impact to cash flow, and did the invoicing also affect your payment cycles? Can you comment, share a bit on that as well?
Yeah, so with literally the click of a button, our invoices can go out and our statements go out. And there's a button on those to pay online through our website, or to make our IBAN is on the bottom of everything. They can call and someone can take a call over or a payment over the phone. So it made it easier for the client to just say, oh gosh, I remembered that I've got to pay it last month, I'll pay it now, and click on the button and pay. So all of that then will come through their little section in the software and be allocated against their account. So from that point of view, it saved, calling, looking for money, which was the traditional way of keeping debtors under control. And I think most people really want to pay. They don't want to be out there owing money, but sometimes if there's a query in the back of their mind and they have to pick up the phone or they have to do something extra, they'll put it off. Whereas the easier it is for them to just click and pay, the more likely they are to do it. And that certainly helped with cash flow. I guess because we were manually invoicing previously, it was a big job. So if something small and quick came in front of it, it was done. Human nature. Whereas now it's just set for the date, the time, the bank feeds come in automatically, they can be allocated against them, and everything is done and dusted. So any day of the month, I can click on somebody and see what the cycle is, how many times the invoice was sent, how many times the statement was sent, was it queried, what was their history, all of that, if there's a problem.
Great. So it's a great time saving, but also a way of disciplining some people, because we all know that late payments is a big issue for all small businesses. And as you say, sometimes it's just because there is so much that the business owners are dealing with, and the practice owners and in general, so that sometimes it can get lost. But having this, so simplified, I assume is really impacting significantly the payment cycles. Eilis, anything that you could share in terms of unexpected benefits? Because sometimes you're thinking that this one is quite a predictable one, something that you saw there is a benefit and that you didn't expect to see after implementation of e-invoicing.
Not immediately. We were still counting the cost, the downtime of sort of crosses and checks, but I do think that the very regular contact with the customers made them feel closer. And certainly we were discussing it a week or two ago about, gosh, we used to never hear from them, and now they're on every second week. Sometimes it might just be, thanks for that, that was really useful. But the whole two-way information and interaction seems to have improved. I don't know, is that post-COVID, or is it anything to do with this regular, they see us coming in, ping every week? I don't know. That certainly would be one. We seem to be closer than before.
And that's so important, right? Because as we all keep speaking about this role of practitioners as trusted advisors and to nurture this relationship, I think if you have those technical solutions that can assist that's massively helpful, because you're, as you say, you're working with such a big portfolio of clients, and still you want to show them that you're there to advise them. And maybe, as you say, maybe you will see those other unexpected benefits on a longer term perspective. Maybe there will be some interesting conversations on the back of that, and maybe some opportunities to support those clients in other ways.
Even, for example, if they're having cash flow difficulties, once or twice we'd get an email back saying, sorry, I know I'm a bit late, it's very tight at the moment. And, their allocated manager would ring them and say, is there anything we can help with? So it's like a prompt to jump in there and help when they're having problems, which we wouldn't know about otherwise. If we posted an invoice or emailed an invoice and it was just not responded to, we wouldn't know. So it's been very beneficial in that regular contact, the keeping us in up there in front of them all the time.
Great. Thanks, Eilis, for sharing this. I think we have two remaining questions to conclude our discussion. First of them is, if you'd need to give, let's say, 3 practical tips, everyone likes 3, to other, European practitioners who are looking to start their invoicing journey, what would be those 3, or if you like, 4 or 5 tips?
Yeah, well, the first one is look at your current system and, record it. Look at the components of it and look at the pros and cons of each of them. Because while you might have in mind just going the e-invoicing route, it might occur to you at the time, maybe this is a good time to change other things. Certainly while you're looking at that integration, if you, for example, have a payroll package that you're not overly happy with and it doesn't integrate, and there's another one that everyone raves about who would integrate, that might be a time to look at changing some other things within your practice. That would be the first thing. Research, 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 and talk, you know, and listen, obviously. And just give it time, but don't let it drift. You know, make deadlines and set them in concrete, and just, yeah, it's important. I was lucky with my team because it was so widely discussed and people were coming up with suggestions which were great. I was very happy to run with whatever the collaborative thing was, but in a bigger practice it mightn't be that easy. And it's absolutely vital to have your team with you, because if you don't, it's just impossible. It'll fall apart. I guess, yeah, the integration piece I've said,
Yeah,
it's the way to go. I've just no doubt, and it's proven to be so.
That's a great look at that holistically, right? As you said, from the integration perspective as well, because sometimes, yeah, try to see how it fits into the overall also processes and the tools that they're using. And if you need to share, for example, one of the lessons learned, what aspect of your e-invoicing implementation would you approach differently looking at that again? Is there anything, or did it all?
I would spend more time on cleaning up our data before any transfer. That is vital, because we didn't do enough on that. We didn't allocate enough time to it, and we paid for it the other end, because we just had to redo stuff. So I would, even if you could get someone to champion that project as a standalone project, have everything perfect before you bring it in. It's much more likely to be seamless.
Great. That's a great piece of advice. I'm sure that those who are listening to us today and those who are about to embark this journey will really appreciate all of the practical advice and all of the information that you shared with us today, Eilis. Thank you so much for your openness, and thanks for your time. And
thank you for having me.
Over to you, Jonathan.
Yes, thank you. So that brings us to the end of the episode. Thank you for joining us for this very insightful conversation on e-invoicing. A special thank you to Aleksandra and to our guest, Eilis Quinlan, for sharing her valuable experiences, practical lessons, honest reflections from the front lines of digital transformation. We'd also like to thank all the experts at EFA for their input and for supporting this generally important discussion. If you found today's episode helpful, be sure to visit the EFA website for more resources and updates on digital developments affecting the profession. And don't forget to tune in to our next episode, where we'll continue to exploring the tools and trends shaping the future of accounting and finance. Thank you, and until next time.